Hey, hello everybody, this is Fever McGee, and I'm going to be doing a card pack opening. This is going to be very interesting. So, I'm doing a card pack opening for Magic the Gathering, and can you see this? Journey into Nyx. I'm going to be opening that pack, and I'm also going to be opening Cons of Tarkir? I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to be opening Journey into Nyx first. And so, just open it up. And that is a card I've seen before. Just does not bode well. Alright. Journey into Nyx, going away. New card smell, always good. We got Rouse the Mob, 1-drop with Strive. They gain Trample and +2/+0. Any number of target creatures. That's what Strive does. I'm gonna grade this. For common, it's pretty good. It's a little bit much for the Strive cost, but it's only a 1-drop initially, so gonna let it go pass with probably C+, because it's a pretty decent card. Ooh, nice. This one is really interesting. Enchanted creature has double strike as long as it's an enchantment. Otherwise, prevent all damage that would be dealt by enchanted creature. So, and it's a 3-drop. And this can be really good because you can just basically make it so that my creature doesn't deal any more damage to you. So if like I have one creature and I'm buffing it up like crazy, this card is really good. However, if I want to buff up my card and it's an enchantment, which Journey into Nyx has a lot of enchantments, so this card could be really good in certain circumstances. And those two certain circumstances, one of them happens a lot, and one of them is not as frequent. But the not as frequent one is really good, and the one that's not, that is frequent, is also really good. So, I'm gonna grade this B, probably a B. It's just a common, which is pretty good for a common card. And we have Humbler of Mortals 6-drop 5/5 Constellation. Whenever Humbler of Mortals or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control gain Trample until end of turn. This one can be really good if you have an enchantment deck, like most of the Journey into Nyx cards. So I'm probably going to give this a B+. This one is pretty damn awesome. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 as long as it's an enchantment, otherwise it gets -2/-2. It is a 3-drop. I'm going to put this at about the same as, I don't think I wrote the name of this one. This one is Armament of Nyx. So Nyx Infusion is about the same as Armament of Nyx. It's got nice, it's got two really nice ones. I think it's lower than Armament of Nyx. I think it's just a C+. No, that was Rouse the Mob was a C+. Armament of Nyx was a B, wasn't it? So this is going to be a B-, because the two ones are, according to pretty good cards, it's a on the pretty good card scale. If it was an it's pretty good. If I were to say it's an card, then it would be on the pretty good of the cards. So that's why it's a B-. Harvestguard Alseids. Really interesting name. 3, you get a 2/3 with Constellation. Whenever this or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, prevent all damage that would be dealt to target creature this turn. This is a potentially really good card, and it has a nice ability, and it's a common. I think I'm going to put this one closer to a B+, it's up there with the other constellation that we got this time. Those are two pretty good cards. And now we have Returned Reveler. So for 2, you get a 1/3. When Returned Reveler dies, each player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. So basically it's mill for everyone when this dies, and could potentially be really good in a mill deck, but it can go either way. I think this is more of a, standard card. It feels more like a C card, so I'm going to put it as a C. Starfall. This one, it's interesting. Starfall deals 3 damage to target creature. If that creature is an enchantment, it deals 3 damage to that creature's controller. Now, I would say this is really good if you were only playing people who had Journey to Nyx decks, but people don't normally have Journey to Nyx decks because Journey to Nyx is relatively new, and so the fact that it says creature is an enchantment, it more as like bestow creatures and enchantment creatures that you see in Journey to Nyx, whereas you're not going to see them as much in normal play. Like, I barely have any enchantment creatures, which means Starfall is really only going to deal 3 damage to any of my creatures and not 3 damage to me in every single one of my decks. So this card would be terrible against me because it's a 5-drop, and that is a lot of value out the window when you're only dealing 3 damage. And so I feel this is trying to be like Journey into Nyx, but it's in like common play, not common play, but standard play. You'll probably use this more often than in casual play, and I mostly do casual play and not standard stuff. So I'm gonna put this as a C+, because I acknowledge that 3 damage to the player... Actually, no, 3 damage to the player isn't enough. Yeah, I'm going to have to go with a C- on this one. It's not that great. Cast into Darkness. This is one I haven't seen before. 2-drop. 1 colorless, 1 black. Enchanted creature. Enchanted creature gets -2/-0 and can't block. Interesting. It can be pretty useful in some cases. If you have like a aggro deck and you just like they have a blocker early game and you just needed to get it out of the way so that you can attack, this can be a pretty good card for that. -2/-0 is pretty relevant. I'm not going to say it's relevant enough in the late game, but it's relevant enough in the early game that it's worth it, and it's only a 2-drop, so you're definitely going to see it in the early game. Can't block is pretty good. If you do this on a, say you do this on a defender, then it becomes really powerful because that creature can't be used anymore. And defenders are usually like your really powerful 0/5s, 0/6s, things like that. And so, Cast into Darkness, I'm going to say that it's most likely a C to a C+, but honestly, I'd put this card at a C. Supply Line Cranes for 5. Ooh. You get a 2/4 with flying. When Supply Line Cranes enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 on target creature. Ugh. This card screams to me bad, and not too valuable at all. And it's mostly because it feels more like the stats, the 1/1/1 counter should be on this creature, because then it would be a 3/5 with flying for 5, which is pretty powerful, but having it be on a target creature isn't as powerful, because flying in itself is better than whatever this could do. I mean, you could put it on a double strike creature, but most likely you're not going to have too many instances in which getting a +1/+1 counter on another creature other than flying is going to be more worth it than having it on this creature. So, but it is a 2/4 with flying for 5, and that is something to put value to. So I'm going to say that it's a C+. C+. Very hesitant C+, but a C+. Ooh, Chariot of Victory. We have a uncommon here for 3 mana. This is a card that I have now. I have a friend who uses this, and it makes me upset sometimes. Enchanted creature has first strike, trample, and haste. 3-drop, equip for 1. So, this card is really cool, because if your creature dies, you can just equip it to another creature with only 1 mana. And that's... I'm just sort of having trouble with my stomach here. Don't worry about these pauses, but equip for 1 is really good, especially for something like first strike, trample, and haste. Those are 3 pretty good abilities, because if you put it on the battlefield, if you just put a creature on the battlefield, you can actually use this because it gives haste as well. The first strike and trample are also really good. So I'm actually going to put this card at a B+. B+ with the other constellation creatures. Ooh, enchanted creature zombie. Agent of Erebos. For 4 mana, you get a 2/2. Whenever it enters the battlefield or another enchantment under your control, exile all card from target player's graveyard. I honestly think that this card can potentially be good, but you really need a deck to be based around sort of this kind of idea. And I find it hard to think of when this is good other than you are making them discard cards, and if they're not running a deck that searches their discard for a card, then it's going to be completely useless if you're milling them anyways. I feel like its ability won't be used very often in effect, as like effectively. So I'm going to rank this as low as Starfall, which Starfall I think was a C-. It's better than Starfall, but not by too much. Ooh, Blinding Fire, Strive. For 1, you have a card with Strive. Blinding Fire costs 1 more to cast for each target beyond the first. Any number of target creatures can't block this turn. Ooh, interesting. It's a sorcery, which is to be noted. And so there are honestly better cards than this one. You have, in fact, if I go over here into my little red pile of redness, I can go and find for 2, I think. Hold on, let me just check. Wow, okay, I don't think this actually has it in there, does it? Here it is. For 2, you get Seismic Stop. Creatures without flying can't block this turn. And so if you were to use 2 mana... Where did I put all the Journey to Nyx cards? They are here. Okay. If you were to pay 2 for this one, it would only make it so that 2 creatures can't block this turn. And actually, no. Oh, yeah. For each target beyond the first. So you could only make it so that 2 creatures can't block that turn. Whereas Seismic Stomp can potentially have many creatures unable to block that turn. And so I'm going to put this... Seismic Stomp is already a pretty good card. So I'm going to probably put this hesitantly with Supply Cranes. I think Rouse the Mob would be a sort of better place for this, but it's leaning more towards C+. Reveler of... Oh, this is a nice and shiny rare we got here. Reveler of the Fallen God. For 3/7, you get a sorcery that says put 4 2/2 red and green Strayer creature tokens with haste onto the battlefield. Haste, really good. 4 2/2s, really good. So I'm going to calculate the stats here. 4 2/2s is 8, 8. So you would get basically an 8/8 for 7 with haste. And it is to be noted that it's 4 2/2s and not 1 8/8, because it's really hard to Doomblade 4 2/2s and not 1 8/8. So it's a pretty good card. I would say I would probably put it in an A plus range if it were a common, because this card is really tough to get out because it requires 2 green and 2 red, and if you're running a green-red deck, you're most likely going to have 2 red and 2 green once you're at 7 mana. But honestly, it's just you have to get to turn 7 with a red and green deck, and so this card, I don't feel like it would make that final punch, because that's sort of what you would need for a red and green deck, because from what I understand it, red and green is mostly a rush deck, trying to rush your opponent down, trying to mana ramp into your rush, and Reveler of the Fallen Gods just costs too much to be early game even with mana ramp, and I'm probably, since it's a rare, I'm actually going to put it at a A-, because it's not one of the really good rares. And I would give you an example of the really good rares, but it's in my deck, so I can't, my decks are over in the other room, so. Alright, Font of Ire. This one is actually a pretty good card. It's a common. It's a nice shiny, actually shiny common. When I say shiny rares, I just basically mean rares. And when I see a rare, I think it's so shiny because it's a rare. But Font of Ire is an actually shiny card, and it's for 2. You get an enchantment that says pay 4 and sacrifice it to deal 5 damage to target player. So normally you would have this 5 damage target player with Lava Axe, which is a 5-drop. And now 4, 5, 6. Adding up with the mana, this is 6. But it is to be noted that it's 2 mana once, and then 4 mana the next time. So if you wanted to do it all in one turn, it would have to cost 6 mana. But you could get this out turn 2, and then turn 4, deal 5 damage, instead of turn 5 with Lava Axe. So I think that this card is better than common, so I'm going to put it at a B-, which is our first B- here. And then, of course, we got a Plains, A+ all the way, and we have a bird token, 2/2 bird token, in fact. So it's a 2/2 bird token, and basically I don't care because it's a token. Z is going to be the grade for tokens here. Z. Weird grade. And now I'm opening my Cons of Tarkir. I hope this pack doesn't end up like the last pack I opened for Tarkir, which was I had 2 cards that were almost useless. And those cards were actually like probably the worst cards I've ever seen in my life. Alright, so Arrow Storm for 5. Arrow Storm, by the way, I don't know most of these cards because I haven't really opened many Tarkir packs. Why do I keep saying Tarkir? Deals 4 damage to target creature or player. Raid, if you attacked with a creature this turn, it deals 5 damage to target creature and target player, and the damage can't be prevented. Ooh, that's nice. I was going to say 5 damage if you attacked. That seems a little bit not good. But it's already better than a Lava Axe at that point because it's creature or player. But the fact that it can't be prevented is really powerful. This card is actually a pretty impressive common. So I'm going to put it at a B+. plus here. Alright, so we have a Mardu Hordecheif. Hordecheif or Hordecheif? I don't know. I always get those two words mixed up. I don't know how they're spelled. I forget. So for 3 mana, you get a 2/3. When this enters the battlefield, it's got raid. So when this enters the battlefield, if you attack with a creature this turn, put a 1/1 white warrior token onto the battlefield. I have a friend who has a warrior deck, so this whole human warrior thing is actually really important. And like for some creatures, Sliver, if it has Sliver and you have a whole bunch of other Sliver cards, it's a really good card for you. But if you have like 3 Slivers and you get a Sliver card, it's basically a dead card because you can't use it unless you're running a Sliver deck. In general, this is just a good card. If you're running a warrior deck, this is a great card. So I'll probably trade this with him, and I'll probably trade it for a pretty good card. So I'm actually going to put this at a B. I think that was the last one too, B. Or B+. Yeah, I'm going to put it with the Bs. Okay, so for 5, you get a 4/2 with Hexproof and Prowess. Ooh, this one is interesting. Prowess, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gains +1/+1 until end of turn. So potentially, this can get out of hand fast, and your opponent can't really do much about him because he's hexproof. And so, if you're running a deck that casts a lot of spells really fast in one turn, then this card can be really amazing. Generally, this is a pretty good card. For 5, you get a 4/2 with flying. Wait, not with flying. Whoa. I read that wrong. It doesn't have flying. I don't know if I said flying before, but for some reason I thought this card had flying. Never mind. It is a decent card. It has Hexproof and Prowess. What am I doing? It does not have flying. Okay, so it has Hexproof and Prowess, so now that I realize it doesn't have flying, it becomes not as good of a card. So I'm gonna put it with the B-. B-. Alright, so we are going to Shatter for 2, destroy target artifact. I don't really have many comparisons to this one. This one feels pretty powerful because it's an instant, but I can't be sure because I don't have anything to compare it with, because I don't know of any cards that destroy artifacts. Here, hold on, let me just check in here, because I think that I have a creature that will destroy an artifact. So, it should be my 2-drops. So, not that. Reckless Reveler. For 2, you get a 2/1, sacrifice it and destroy a target artifact. Yeah. I think that this card is not really the best card. I feel like it's a... Oh, wow, hey, do not, what are you doing? Computer, please, don't do this. Okay. I feel like this card is not the greatest card. I feel like it's a C+, but I do this hesitantly because I'm not sure if I'm really correct in my logic. Alright, Rite of Serpent. So for 6, destroy target creature. If that creature has a +1/+1 counter on it, put a 1/1 green snake creature token onto the battlefield. That is not a good card. It's a sorcery, and so it's just really not good at all. For 6, you're destroying target creature where you have Murder for 3, which destroys target creature. It has the added bonus of if it has a +1/+1 counter on it, put a 1/1 green snake token creature on the battlefield. First of all, +1/+1 counter sometimes doesn't matter, and put a 1/1 green snake token creature on the battlefield usually, most of the time, doesn't matter. Usually you're not going to see 1/1 snakes being the thing that sort of trumps the other player. I have a snake now! Okay, it's a 1/1, you're not going to do anything with it. I'm gonna put this at a D+. It's passing, but not well. Dragonscale Boon 4. Put a 2+1/+1 counters on target creature and untap it. Ooh, that is interesting. Cards that untap creatures usually aren't super valuable. This has put 2/1/1 counters on it, however. So next turn you'll have a more powerful creature, and this the next turns for your opponents you will have a more powerful creature that can block. So I'm actually going to put this at a C+. It is not an amazing card by any means, but it is a pretty good card. Alright. Mardu Banner. For 3, it taps to add 1 red, 1 white, or 1 black to your mana pool. So this is actually really good because it's really diverse, and if you have a red-white deck, you can put it in there. If you have a red-black deck, you can put it in there. If you have a red-white-black deck, you can put it in there, and it becomes really efficient that way. The only downside is it has the same thing as the artifacts. The clue stones of all the different two-colored ones. Wow, I'm really good at this. It has pay 3, also known as 1 red, 1 white, and 1 black, to sacrifice this and draw a card. And that makes it basically the same as all of the clue stones, because even though you have the added bonus of tapping for more mana, you also have to tap more mana to sacrifice it and draw a card, which card draw is really good, and this makes the whole card draw aspect a little bit worse on this card than the clue stones. So I'm going to put this as a C+, because the clue stones are most of them are usually a C+. Ooh, this is a high drop. So for 8, you have a 3/5 with Delve. Each card you exile from the graveyard while casting the spell pays for 1 colorless. Ooh, interesting. It has Death Touch. Nice. Oh, Death Touch is such a fun ability. So here, hold on. You're attacking with your 1/7. I'm going to block with a 3/5. Your 1/7 dies. Happy about that one. But you'd have to exile, in order for this card to be like worth it, you'd have to exile 3/5, so it would be 5 drop. So you would probably have to exile 3 cards in order for this to be worth it. And exiling 3 cards from your discard pile, if you're running a Golgari deck, can be not good, because Golgari is mostly dealing with the graveyard interactions. And so this might not be the best card. It's also a zombie, and if you're running a zombie deck, it's also not the best card, because you're most likely getting cards from your graveyard because it's zombies. So I'm gonna put this as a C- card. Alright, Stiffwater Cliffs. Stiffwater Cliffs enters the battlefield tap. When Stiffwater Cliffs enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Nice. It's basically an Izzet Guildgate. Guilds, that's the name, my goodness. So it's an Izzet Guildgate with the added bonus of gaining 1 life. So Izzet Guildgates are normally worth it. Not Izzet Guildgates, but Guildgates themselves are normally worth it. And the gaining 1 life part definitely adds a little bit to that. So Guildgates, I'd probably put them at probably B+ cards. So this would tip it over to a B+. Ooh, interesting. We have a 6-drop 6/5. This is honestly not a good card. It's not a bad card, but it's not a good card. Because it doesn't have any other abilities than being a 6/5, and this is a green, so the fact that it is green means that you'll most likely be able to get better creatures that are commons for 6, and so it makes it a lot less valuable. And so I'm probably going to put this at a the same one as I put the last one, which is C minus. Whoa, what is this? We have a 7-drop, 5/4, uncommon, with flying. So it's a 7-drop, 5/4 with flying. Honestly, I usually put flying as +1/+1 in order to convert it to just sort of regular normal stats, in order to compare it to the actual amount that it has, and that would be a 6/5, and a 6/5 for 7 is really bad, honestly. So, I mean, for like bigger creatures, if they have flying, it becomes more worth it, but it doesn't push it over to a +1/+2 or a +2/+2, and it'd have to get a +2/+2 to even be justifiable. So I'm actually, and the fact that it's an uncommon is really bad, because when I get this and it's an uncommon, I am super underwhelmed, and I go, why? Don't give me this card as an uncommon. Give me it as a common, so that I know that it's not taking up that slot. That is a D- card on my standards. Oh, we have a choose one, and there's 3 choices for this one. We have a Temur Charm. For 3 mana, 1 green, 1 blue, and 1 red. You get choose one. Target creature you control gets +1/+1, gets +1/+1 until end of turn. It fights target creature you don't control. Green. The second one is counter target spell unless its controller plays 3. Blue. Creature with power 3 or less can't block this turn. Red. So it's clearly specifying for either a green, blue, or red ability. And that's very interesting, because it's saying that even though this card is for a 3-color deck, that 3-color deck can either be run for green or blue or red sort of things that are happening. And this card, because of its choose one, but mostly because of its choose one, it's a really good card, because most of the abilities for 3 are sort of decent. I'd probably put them at a C-, but because there's 3 of them and you can choose between each, it makes the scenarios in which each of them would be great combine all together and makes it so that this is a very relevant card. And so I'm actually going to probably put this at a B- here. So we get a B-. Alright, we have a Naga Shaman. For 5, you get a 2/5. It's these names are so weird. Sultai Soothsayer. Or Soothsayer. I don't know. 2/5. When this enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library, put them onto your put one of them into your hand and the rest in your graveyard. Okay, so this is black, green, and blue. So you can have elements of Golgari in your deck if you have, if you were running a Golgari deck. Well, I mean, you'd have to be running a 3-color deck in this, but this can be really potentially good if you're running Golgari elements of the interactions in your graveyard. And honestly, this is a pretty good card. 2/5 is not great. Its ability isn't enough to justify the 2/5. I'd probably put it at 3/5 or a 2/4, but it's still a good card. It's an uncommon, and because I am accounting for the uncommon when I'm saying 2/4 or 3/5. Wait, 2/4? No, wait, what am I saying? A 2/6 or a 3/5 is what I mean. And so, but it's still a good card anyways. I'm going to put it as a C+. Oh, we have 1,000 Winds. This is the shiny rare, as I like to call them. We have a 5/6 with flying for 6. This is why rares are really good. It's also got morph, which is... Oh, whoa, hey. Oh, nice, okay. Okay. I got it. That's why that makes more sense. Okay. Not only is it a 5/6 for 6 with flying, which would, on my stats, be a 6/7 for 6, it has the morph ability, which says if you pay 3, you can put it face down, which means the opponents don't know what it is, and it has a 2/2. So all they know is that it's a 2/2 at this point. And then it has the ability of morph for 7, which you're like, why? This is why I was confused, is I was like, why is it more? And then the ability at the bottom says, when it is turned face up, return all other tapped creatures to their opponent's hand. And now the thing is, if it's a 2/2 face down, and they can attack that turn, if you flip it over, it can still attack. So now you have this you have this 5/6 with flying that potentially means if you return all other tapped creatures to their owner's hands, then if they attacked with all their creatures, they all go back to their hands. You now have a 5/6. This also is really good if you're tapping creatures, which I have one deck entirely based around tapping creatures. So this, I'm definitely going to put this in my deck. This is a card. It's not an A+ card. It's not one of those cards that you go, wow, I got that card. But it's a card that you go, my goodness, I have this card. Then, of course, you have the Island, which is, of course, A+, A++. Oh, wait, A+, A++++++, infinitely. And then you have the weirdest goblin art of all time that I'm not sure that I like at all. Kev Walker, please. No? That is actually it for my card pack opening. I had some really good cards. We have some of the highlights here. Reveler of the Fallen God, Chariot of Victory, Harvestguard Alseids, Humbler of Mortals, and then of course you have the Thousand Winds. And so one of them is, two of them are commons, one of them is an uncommon, and two of them are rares. So you'll often find me putting commons up here with rares and stuff. And so I think that was all A's. Some of them might have been B-, I don't know. I was just sort of putting them in piles sort of relative to where I thought they were, because I wasn't keeping any track of it. But that was it. That's it for my card pack opening video. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.